They need a pad to write on and a pen to write with. And that is what the state is providing. Nothing more, nothing less. The same also applies to tape, gem sets, copy paper, computer printers, toner and ink cartridges, janitorial services and supplies, and the list goes on and on. Literally any and all goods and services used by the state. You see, Henry Ford knew something about standardization and the savings associated therewith. He said, you can have this car in any color you want, as long as it's black. The state marketing, advertising, and communications department would be akin to a corporation's internal marketing department, where all creative, graphic design, web content, social media communication, advertising, production, press releases, marketing research, and so on, are performed, managed, placed, and produced. The state and its entities no longer have to spend millions of dollars with outside firms for these services. Again, internships and apprenticeships would be utilized. For example, some ads, campaigns, and so on would be given to various college students and or classes as competition and or four-grade class projects to see who can come up with the best end product. The state auditing department would perform any and all requested and mandated audits. The auditors themselves would have no idea from one day to the next who or what they would be auditing. And thus, by random lottery drawings would an individual auditor be assigned. In some cases, senior class students and or classes would be given the opportunity to shadow the auditor and or audit independently of the auditor so as to see how book skills apply to real life and government, much like how a law clerk and a lawyer interact and work together. Additionally, internships and apprenticeships would be another way for students to see how classroom knowledge compares and applies to the real world. The State Transportation and Services Department would be the state motor pool for any and all state entities, the only exception being the state troopers. This department would manage and maintain all state transportation vehicles. It would retrofit any obtained vehicle and recycle it into transportation. For example, when a state trooper police cruiser is retired, it would be turned over to the State Transportation and Services Department, where the vehicle would be recycled into transportation. This would be done by state employees and by vocational college students on site or at one of several state vocational colleges that have auto studies. Eventually, this department's fleet of vehicles would be comprised solely of recycled vehicles. The State Property Management and Maintenance Department would perform any and all property management, maintenance, and service functions relative to real estate, including but not limited to HVAC maintenance and repairs, plumbing, electrical, landscaping, landscape maintenance, and so on. Various curriculums would apply here, including horticulture, and those previously listed. As with the State Transportation and Services Department, this department is particularly where vocational college students can get a jump start on the job market by getting practical experience. You might find it interesting to know that several professionals have come out in support of these proposed centralized departments. To understand inefficiencies in bleeders and their detrimental financial impact, think of a house on fire. The fire department comes out and is spraying water on the fire. The only problem is they need more water coming out of the hose because their hose has holes in it. So what is the solution? Do you force more water through the hose, thereby leaking more water? Or do you plug up the holes, the bleeders, the inefficiencies, and eliminate the waste? By the same token, to understand how small bleeding here and there adds up, think about a parking meter, which only takes nickels, dimes, and quarters. But those nickels, dimes, and quarters add up. The same applies to savings. A little here, a little there, It all adds up. But don't take my word. Just ask any municipality that has parking meters. Furthermore, let me add, when course correcting and doing turnarounds, you have to be micro and not macro. You have to look at every bleeder, regardless of size. Simply put, we must tighten our belt without cutting services. We must do more with less. We must be like single mothers, doing whatever is needed within our means to accomplish the extraordinary. A single mother does not gripe nor complain about what she does not have. A single mother just gets it done. The money the government spends is your money, and government officials should spend your money like it was their own. For example, why buy when we can recycle? Why buy new when we can get used? Why buy from retail stores when we can buy on eBay or at thrift stores? I assure you, many families shop on eBay, at garage sales, and thrift stores. So why can't government? Make no mistake, the employees are the ones who make it work. They are the biggest asset. They know where the bleeders, the inefficiencies are. But management does not care what someone beneath them thinks or has to say, as it might be determined that the person in charge is really the problem. There needs to be, however, a hiring freeze in Alabama. There needs to be a hiring freeze in government, especially in our state, where no new hires would occur without the express written approval of 1, the head of the entity, 2, the state finance director, and 3, the governor. When someone quits, retires, or is terminated, that person's duties should be redistributed without hiring a replacement. That's how it's done in business to save money. Likewise, I've never supported doing anything relative to the human element until any and all inefficiencies have been identified and corrected. Then and only then, if further cuts were needed, would I consider personnel-related cuts. But even before eliminating any employee, I would try to get the board and management to agree to pay cuts and then see if the employees would also agree to pay cuts, thereby not having to eliminate anyone. This is known as shared sacrifice. To that extent, a couple of weeks ago, it was announced that the judiciary was eliminating 150 jobs throughout the state. 35 jobs were eliminated in Jefferson County, my home county. I can assure you that not one single justice, judge, or support staff was asked to take a pay cut or even contemplated taking a pay cut so that 150 people could keep their jobs. Furthermore, I assure you, the justices, the judges, and their staffs are not going to work harder or work longer hours. To prove my point, it was recently announced they are going to reduce the court work week down to 4 days. Simply put, these personnel cuts combined with the court work week reductions are going to translate into nothing more than slower justice. To prove this point, one high-profile murder trial has already been indefinitely postponed due to these cuts. The human element should not be cut in any way whatsoever unless and until all other solutions have been explored. With shared sacrifice, everyone, all state entities, including the executive branch, the legislative branch, House and Senate, the judicial branch, district, circuit, criminal, appeals, and Supreme Courts, everyone gives a little and the state saves a lot. In the end, all pay cuts are restored as the budget allows. But the employees get their pay restored first. And then everyone else gets their pay restored. That's how it's done in the private sector and how I did things from turning around troubled companies. The simple fact of the matter is that our public officials want commitment from everyone, while they themselves are only involved. My daddy summed up the difference